Hi everybody and welcome to Learn Live Streaming Live. My name's John Lacey, and on the show today we're going to be looking at how we can use the multicam functionality inside of DaVinci Resolve. So we are going out live to all the various places, so if you are watching live, let me know where you're watching from in the chat. That'd be great to hear from you. And I guess we are, I haven't even checked to see if this button actually works, but we'll give it a go anyway. We are sort of marching towards 1,000 subscribers, so if you are interested in this content, please hit that subscribe button, especially if you're watching on YouTube. And the best place to watch is johnlacey.com/live. All right, hello to Business Growth Ready. It says good morning or good night, midnight in the UK. Great to have your company. So what we're going to do today, and it's probably going to be a relatively short one, but I wanted to explore this multicam functionality in DaVinci Resolve, and it looks really cool. And I guess what I probably need to do first, I'm just going to play a version of the clip that I'm going to work on today. And we're not going to do all the edits that are on this, but it'll just give you some idea of what we're working with, and then I'll talk about how I recorded it, and then we can go into the editing phase. OBS Studio is free and open source software for video recording, live streaming, and changing how you show up on webcam. Okay, so that's a super short clip, all of 7 seconds, I believe, and I just wanted to see if I could do that. And what we really need for this is, you know, at least two cameras, although in this case, I was using a phone and a camera, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And just thinking about where you're going to position them, have them recording at the same time, and have them with the same basic audio. And it doesn't need to be exactly the same. We'll see in a moment that one of these is mic'd up and one of these is just the ambient room in the ambient sound of the room itself. But this is enough of a reference to get started. So let's head over to DaVinci Resolve, and they just released version 21, I think a day or two ago. So I'm going to create a new project, and we'll call this multicam example. All right, so what I need to do is actually find my clips, and I'm going to do this on the edit page, and we're just going to make sure we've got the media pool open, and I'm just going to drag my two clips over and hopefully let them go. And it's asking if I want to change the project frame rate to 29.97. Yeah, let's do that. I guess that's the other thing that's worthwhile keeping in mind, is that you will want them to be the same frame rate to the extent that that's possible. Hello to Walter Strong, great to have your company today. So we are in DaVinci Resolve, and I guess the first thing to note about this is I've got one angle, which is from the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and I've got another angle, which is from my phone. And I must admit, the version from my phone isn't the correct orientation. And I know if you were anything like me, you'll be really tempted to want to change this. And from my experiments, I think this is a mistake. So we'll hold that thought. Hello to LinkedIn user. I'm assuming that's Stefan. He says, hi there, John. Long time no see. Sweden here. Business Growth Ready is saying the audio scratch track for track syncing. Absolutely. So I'm sure Michael knows exactly where we're headed with this. But the point is, this is actually pretty easy. So what I'm going to do, actually, before I do that, I'm just going to click on each of these ones, and I'm just going to say phone. I'm going to rename these, and I'm going to say phone and DJI. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these clips. I'm going to actually right-click and go to create new multicam clip using selected clips. And we can give this one a name. I'll call it the multicam edit. We have a whole bunch of options here. I guess the other thing to call out about this, and I'm not a DaVinci Resolve expert, I'm a DaVinci Resolve learner. So there's a lot of flexibility built into this process, which is great, but I think it could be a little bit time consuming. The main thing that we need to worry about though is the angle sync. So if you do have two clips that start at the same time or the end at the same time, then you can use these in or out options. If you're working with time code, you can do that. You can also set up some markers, but in this case, I just want the sound to be the reference point here. All right, so we've got channel 1, channel 2, mix. Now this is where it gets a little bit confusing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I did during the week, even though I don't think it's necessarily the best way of doing this. And we might even do this a couple of times just to give you the sense of this. But the multicam audio, the options here are source audio channels, reference audio / angle 1, adaptive tracks, all angles. So I'm just going to leave it on source audio for the moment. The angle name, I'm going to change this actually to clip name. So that'll just make it a little bit more obvious what I'm working with in the edits when we get there. Move source clips to original clips bin. I don't really want to do that. I'm going to turn that off. We could potentially also detect clips from the same camera. So in this case, these are only two standalone clips, and one's obviously from one camera, one's from the other. I don't think we need to worry about that too much. And we can go create, and it'll do its thing. I don't think this is a particularly long clip, but essentially now we've got this clip here. So what we want to do really is let's actually create, I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a new timeline, and we will say, I'm going to call it edited version. It doesn't really matter what you call this as long as you know what it's about. And we'll go OK. All right, so now I'm going to drag my multi-clip onto the timeline. Here we've actually got both. Okay. So I've got the multi-clip itself, and I've got two tracks of audio, which is kind of interesting. And allegedly, they're both from DJI. We'll figure that out in a second. So what we do want to do, though, and I often have the inspector open, and that sort of reduces the amount of space I've got to work with here. But if we turn the inspector off and we have this different section, we can go down to the drop down here where it says source, and we can change this to multicam. So the first thing to note is these clips actually don't start in the same place. So there's going to be a period where the DJI camera has some footage and the phone hasn't. I haven't pressed the record button on the phone yet, essentially, is all this means. And in this case, it's not really a big deal because there's a whole bunch of stuff that actually, you know, before I even actually start speaking, that we can just get rid of. And I'm just gonna, and this is the point at which we could cut this, we could trim this, either. I think in this case, I'm actually going to go Control-Alt to select all those clips. I'm going to go Control-B to blade those, and I'm actually going to go Ripple Delete to get rid of all of that. All right.
OBS Studio is free and open source software for video recording, live streaming, and judging how you show up on webcam. And now I can move and look at this camera. And now I move and look at this camera.
So, and I should say that this content isn't very exciting, but it was really just so proof of concept, so I could prove to myself that I could actually do this. So, a couple of things to note, and first of all, I think we've actually got two lots of audio here, which I think is actually fine for our purposes, but I think I might just mute one of these for the moment.
OBS Studio is...
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing in my headphones is one of these is left and one of these is right. So I won't actually mute that. But essentially from here, and I should point out too that I've got the speed editor, which is DaVinci Resolve's physical little keyboard, and I'll be using a little bit of that, but I want to show you how to do this just with the mouse as well. So once we've got this open, and again, make sure you're on the multicam.
OBS Studio is free.
I can sort of decide where I want to change this angle. And what I would do ordinarily is I would essentially you've got a choice here. So I can either physically click on one of these, or I can use the buttons on the speed editor. So let's just imagine we're gonna switch to this camera. I'm gonna click it here, and that essentially makes a cut to our other camera. And I should say too, DaVinci Resolve edited like the 21 update dropped during the week, and now it's actually working quite differently, which is kind of annoying. So what when I did this previously, DaVinci Resolve actually figured out that I needed to turn this around, but it doesn't look like it's going to do that right now. But anyway, we'll come back to that. Don't stress. All right. So essentially, what I've done there, and there's a couple of things to note, and I might even undo this, but if you look, in fact, you can't really see it because I'm in front of it, but let me just, if you look down at the waveform itself, you'll see it says the Multicam Edit -DJI, but if I scroll further along, where that new cut is, it's actually saying phone. So it's switching both the camera angle and the audio. I probably don't want to do that because the audio on the phone is not great. And I guess this is another point at which if I just go Control Z to undo this, I could maybe come back in here. We do also have these options here. So here, when this is selected in the Multicam Edit as our source, we can change the video and audio. We can change just the video or just the audio. So if I do that again, and I make this cut here, it's changed the video angle, but it hasn't changed the audio. And that's something I didn't really understand earlier in the week. But if I undo this, and let's actually go back and change both of those, and I'll change that here. The other thing that you can do too is you can actually just right click on the clips, and there's an option here that says switch multicam angle. Again, the option is actually behind my head, but I can sort of go from a phone to DJI. And I can do that for both audio and video. And if they're linked, because they probably will be linked at some point. So if that was connected, you'll see that the video and the audio are all selected there together. And that way, if I go in and actually switch the multicam angle, it'll switch all three of those things. So if you do see that and you don't want to work in that way, then the best thing to do is just find this little link selection and click on it again. So again, I'm going to undo all of that. We're going to actually just work on changing the video angle only. So I'm going to do that. And again, I could click in here, but what I might do is I'm going to press the physical button on the speed editor. And I should say too, the speed editor does actually have the options for the video only, audio only. And then when you've got both of those in fact, yeah. So on the keyboard itself, you select video only, it's highlighted. You select audio only, it deselects the video only. And because essentially that's sort of one state of the same, two different states of the same button, if you know what I mean. I don't know if I'm being particularly articulate today on a Saturday morning, but I hope you'll indulge me. So again, let's just select that option. Let's keep going. Let's think about where we want to cut again. And I might go back to this camera.
For video recording.
And I might go back to this one.
Streaming. And
let's go back to this one.
And changing how you show up on web.
And I think just around here, we'll go back to this angle.
Webcam.
All right, this clip goes for a lot longer. I'm not going to worry about the rest of the clip too much. It's me sort of messing around. So I'm going to select all, Control A. I'm going to go Control B to do a break there. And again, just going to select those three clips and I'm going to rip or delete them just to make them go away. All right, so it's very interesting to me actually that this hasn't really acknowledged the difference in orientation here, because that actually did happen in the previous version. So I'm not really sure, but I think what we might do, let's just try a few things and we'll see if they work. If I go to my phone footage and I go and select, I click on it and right click and go to clip attributes, if I tell them that maybe the orientation is wrong, I don't know if it's going to update this or not. There we go. Okay. So in this case, that does appear to have worked here. So let me just make sure I'm definitely back on the timeline. Okay.
Here, where you see video screen and software for video recording, live streaming.
All right. So in this case, that was necessary. So maybe I did that previously and I just didn't remember, but that's fine. The other thing about this too is, like, I don't know that I spent a lot of time thinking about the framing of this. And what I actually did in the other version of this clip was I came in and I selected all the phone versions. And let's just make sure we're on top of one. And I went into the inspector and I sort of adjusted the zoom and the position. And again, this is a relatively subjective thing, I would argue. And we do also have the guides and the rulers and different things that we could perhaps have on here if we wanted to, just to get a better sense of what we're lining up to. But in this case, because I've selected all of these clips, I can make these changes together. And I don't remember the exact values, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter too much for our purposes today. But if I wanted to zoom in, if I wanted to maybe adjust the positioning of this, I could change the X and Y values, not like that evidently. I think maybe over here with the X value, probably too many. And then I could just go through the timeline to see what that looks like. And again, I guess I've selected all three of these versions of this clip because I want the change to be on all of them, but potentially we could change this quite a lot and we could zoom in, we could have different transitions, we can do whatever we like. But I think the thing that really blew my mind during the last week is if we look at these two clips, they're on two different cameras. I'm genuinely debating whether I should get an Osmo Pocket, like a second Osmo Pocket 3, or maybe a 4, or maybe a 4 Pro if they ever release it, just to see if I can get better footage. Because the phone footage, it's not terrible, but it's not the same. And the big thing here is actually the color difference. So you'll see that the phone footage is a lot warmer than the DJI. And again, DaVinci Resolve, being the amazing piece of software that it is, actually gives us some tools to fix this. So if I head over to the color tab, and in fact, it's probably even more visible here. So I'm quite bright here. I'm a bit cooler, a bit warmer in these clips, a bit cooler in these clips. And I guess, you've got all these amazing color correction tools, color grading tools in here. That's something I'm still learning. But one thing I did discover during the week is we can actually select these. So I want to think about which clips I want to change and which color, which one I want to use as a reference. So in this case, and this is what I did with the main clip, I went from the warm to the cool. So I've just selected those three instances of that clip. I'm going to go to one of these other ones. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to shot match this clip. Watch what happens when I do this. This blew my mind during the week. There we go. So now, if we go back to the timeline, you'll see that these clips look much more similar to each other. And we could have, equally have done it the other way around. So and we've got different versions of this. So what we can do is I can sort of go delete all versions and I'll just and that's of the color grade. And maybe I actually want to go the other way. Maybe I decide that actually I like the warmth of this, although it's not actually looking too different to me. What I might do, so these are the ones I changed. So I'll just select those again and I'll go delete all versions. It doesn't look massively different to me, but I'm hoping that that's done its thing. But we can equally go the other way. So I can select these and I can say, make this one the reference. So I'll go shot match to this clip. And again, it's probably relatively subtle on the stream, but it is matching those clips. And the other thing that kind of blew my mind, and I haven't really had a chance to explore this yet, but you can shot match to any image you can bring into DaVinci Resolve. So if you've got a reference, you can just bring that in and it'll have a go. And it may not be perfect. You may still want to go in and use these other tools to color correct or color match. But that took seconds. And that blew my mind. And it kind of made me think, maybe I don't need that camera, but maybe I'll still buy it. I don't know. So Business Goes Ready writes, Multicam, what a justification for a Pocket 4 if you've already got a Pocket 3. Yeah. And I guess I really want the Pocket 4 Pro, which I really don't think I'm going to see until the end of the year at this rate. I keep looking at the DJI website every day, because I guess the thing that I think you do need to think about a little bit is, you know, the Osmo Pockets, they don't really have any zoom. Well, except for the new one, which is coming out, which has a little bit of zoom. I think the earlier ones have digital zoom. But also, you're recording in 4K, so that's the other thing, because I was able to sort of, and I must admit I did this on the phone footage, but I don't think it looks terrible. The fact that I've zoomed in and I've repositioned some of the clips a little bit.
Free and open source software for video
So
recording, live
after
streaming,
that,
and changing how you show up on webcam.
you know, that's, in fact, let me just play this through, just so you know, you believe me that this is all that was required, and I've done this in, you know, a very short period of time.
OBS Studio is free and open source software for video recording, live streaming, and changing how you show up on webcam.
And in this case, I probably need to think about where those cuts are, because they're a little bit too dramatic in my world. But I guess the other thing too is if we go, and this will be the point at which I try to figure out how this is going to work. But in theory, I should just be able to drag this a little bit back.
OBS Studio is free and open source software for video.
And in fact, I can literally just drag these. So again, it's all in the one clip.
Video recording, live.
Okay, great question from Walter. Let's check this out. So Walter writes, being a beginner doing editing, what do you mean by shot matching? So in this case, and I might see if I can just remove this again, just to show you. So in fact, what I'm just gonna go select all. I'm gonna get rid of all of this. I'm just gonna go delete versions. And again, this might be a little bit subtle, but I'll see what I can do here. In fact, full screen window. Okay, that's weird. I'll turn that off. So, if you look closely at this first clip, and this is pretty subtle in this case. It could potentially be more dramatic depending on how you've captured your video. But here, I'm in this very blue room, and it's dark, and I've got you know, I've got a grey jacket on. Everything is quite muted. If I move to the next clip, and again, I don't know, I'm not really convinced that this has actually gotten rid of all of the corrections I've done, but previously this was a lot redder. In fact, what we might do, let's just, I'm going to just create a new timeline just to show you side by side. So we'll say shot correction. And now instead of bringing in the multicam clip, I'm actually just going to bring in both of these two clips and drag them. Actually, I can't really do that. I'll have to create another track above this. So I'll have the phone. Oh. Okay, that's interesting. So actually, I've still got the audio only on the speed editor. So let me drag this on. Let me drag this on. Okay. So let me resize this, and we'll go 0.5, and we will go 0.5 here as well. I might even just put this on. I mean that's kind of mind-boggling because it's still confused by the orientation of this. But let's not dwell on that too much. So I've got that clip over there. I've got this clip over here. So and this may not be super obvious from the footage. You may need to take my word for it, but this is a little bit darker and colder in terms of the warmth of the color temperature. So there are more sort of blues in here. This one is a little bit lighter, and I guess for me, the place this is most obvious is the wall itself. So this is probably a more accurate representation on the right of what this color actually looks like, whereas it's a little bit cooler on the left. And the point at which we actually go into the color tab, and these are here together. So what I can do is I can actually select this one and I can say, make this one look more like this, and I'll go shot match this clip. And you'll see that made that a little bit warmer, a little bit brighter. In fact, we could actually go the other way as well. So I can click in here and I say match it to this one. And you'll see that made it a little bit darker and a little bit cooler. And again, you don't need to live with either of these extremes. You can sort of go in and play with all the color tools that we have on this page. Again, that's something I'm still learning about, so I don't have too much to say about it at this point in time, but it just makes it look like they were shot by the same type of camera, even though they really weren't. This is literally, one of these is from the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, and the other one is just from my phone. And I didn't expect to have this option, and it's kind of amazing. So that's there. Again, it's relatively subtle, but I think it really adds to the professional outcome of this clip in particular, because it would have been quite obvious that these look different. I keep saying obvious and subtle. I think it depends on how closely you look, but I think it's certainly worth doing. And I don't know this for a fact. Maybe Michael knows this, but I think the shot matching ability is also in the free version. I'm using the studio version, which is the paid version. And it sort of came free with the keyboard that I'm working with here, the speed editor. But essentially, we've got that there. So let's go back to my edited version timeline. And, you know, I can...
OBS Studio is free and open source software for video recording, live...
And again, I can sort of change where these things are. I can add transitions to them. In fact, what we might do is because I don't know if I want to go through all the things that I did on the previous clip, because I don't think we'll have time, to be honest, even within an hour. But essentially, what we've got here is just the ability to switch between these. And again, I selected all of these.
OBS Studio is free and open source software for video recording, live...
And let's imagine, even though this is sort of treated like a single clip, there are also different parts of this. So if I wanted to come in here, I could certainly make any changes to this. So I'm thinking about comparing and contrasting. So in some cases, you want to make it look as similar as possible. And in other cases, you really want to call it out that it's different. So if I go to my effects, let's get rid of the media pool. Like, I can sort of bring any of these clips in, and see, it's funny. I sort of just added one. I haven't actually added it. I'm just hovered over this non-additive dissolve, and you can see what that's trying to do. So if I actually add that between those two clips, and we'll go back a little bit.
Video recording, live streaming.
You can see that effect is in there. So again, I think Michael would agree if he's still lurking, but I think it's really tempting for beginners to come in and play with all of these. And I think it's probably a worthwhile thing to do just to get it out of your system, because in a lot of ways we want our transitions to be much more subtle than that. But we certainly can sort of come in and, like, if there is a point at which, you know, maybe I'm talking about something glitching and I actually want it to glitch, I could bring that in as a creative effect.
Video recording, live streaming.
So that's kind of trippy. That probably wouldn't make sense here, but you could potentially do it. Okay, so Business Code 3D Right shot match feature is available in the free version as far as I can remember. I did upgrade with the paid license about a week ago. I've been sitting on the license for about 4 months. Yeah, you definitely need to to install that. And I guess one slightly confusing thing about DaVinci Resolve is they have the free version, they have the paid version. They're actually two different apps. So you might need to uninstall the free version to install the paid version. I know there are some people on YouTube that have both on the same device. It sounded a little bit tricky. I didn't really want to do that. I do have the free version on my laptop, but I barely use my laptop, so it is a thing. But I guess the other thing too, and let's take this. I'm going to add a track at the beginning of this. And I swear I'm not trying to show off. I'm just going to go, did that actually, no. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I've created a new clip here. I'm going to actually bring this up and go Alt and just create a copy of this. There are a number of different features about the paid version. I really do like the AI generation of subtitles is an amazing one. They do have transcripts built into this as well. But one of the things, yeah, and we'll come back to that in a second, Michael. One of the things that is just amazing about this. So if I go, I don't know if I can rename this clip. Oh, it doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to go into... In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add another clip. I'm going to bring another track rather. I'm going to move this track up. And I'm going to quickly, on a different screen you can't see, just find a screenshot that I used in the other edit of this video. It's probably going to take a couple of minutes for this to catch up. I have a folder of screenshots, and there are hundreds of them, and Windows sometimes struggles. But while we're waiting for that, Michael writes, think of most of the transitions as 1980s effects or word art. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I totally agree with that. And even as a student in high school, we had access to a Mac-based office suite called ClarisWorks. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember that. And the thing I noticed about all my fellow students is ClarisWorks had a lot of functionality for gradients built into it. And they used every single color, every single font on every single page, and it was so chaotic. And I think the thing you learn about design is at some point you just need to have a little bit more restraint. So I pulled in this screenshot. This is just from the OBS website. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on my duplicated version. I'm going to head over to the color tab, and let's do some magic masking because this honestly it blows my mind at times. AI magic mask. Okay. So hopefully we're on the right version of this clip. I'm not going to click on anything else. But essentially what I want to do is I'm just going to come to the clip and I want to select me. And I guess the other thing that is worthwhile doing here is if I click on this toggle mask overlay, it'll have this slightly red color and it'll show me what I'm selecting. And I think that's done a pretty good job. I might add a few extra points in just for the hell of it. Especially over here because the color sort of changes a little bit. And then I just use this this tracking, track forward and reverse. And it's all this stuff is happening on my local computer. It's just sort of getting that section. Now, if I right click in here and I go add alpha output, and I just grab this blue section and I move this to the other, hold it down, move it to the other section of the blue. If we go back to here, okay, I've done it on the wrong clip, so there you go. I'm just going to Control Z to undo that. So what I want to do, so I just need to make sure it's only on this one. So video 3. Is there a way I can see that on the color tab? Video 3, video 3. Okay, it's this one. I don't know why that didn't work before, but let's try it again. So just magic mask. Use a signifier. Make sure that we've got the... okay. This is the joy of making stuff up as I go along. There we go. So magic mask, click on here, click on here. I've had to do a few extra clicks here. And again, you'd probably spend a little bit of time doing this properly if you're actually working on it, but I'm just going to click tracking forward and back. And then again, let's go and add our alpha channel. Let's connect the alpha channel, alpha output. Go back to our timeline. You can now actually see this screenshot underneath me. So what I did in the other version, I think I actually cropped this a little bit, so I can go and crop that. And then I'll change this to the transform tool and I'll move this over here a little bit. And this is the point at which I think you can actually sort of incorporate some effects and stuff, because and I can't remember the one I actually used on here, but let's just grab something at random. I don't know. In fact, DaVinci Resolve, I think, is probably the one I use. So if I go in and add that to the beginning of the image, I'll bring this back a little bit, and I think I will make this a little bit shorter in length, duration. So now, if we go back.
OBS Studio is free and open source software.
Okay, so I still have done this to the wrong clip as well, so I probably need to go in and I just correct that because I have lost. In fact, let's delete that for starters. Remove that. Delete the node. Okay. And again, I've deleted the node, which has gotten rid of everything, so I probably need to shot match this again. Oh, and I actually did that on a different clip, so let's just try this one last time. Okay. It does look different, but anyway, let's not dwell on that for today's purposes. But if I go back here,
Studio is
yeah,
free.
like you can definitely see that it's so much brighter. Although the more I kind of dwell on this, the more I kind of wonder if I shouldn't have gone the other way and made every clip warmer rather than cooler. But anyway, those are kind of decisions you can make in your downtime. That is annoying me though now. So if I go here, let's actually do it to this one here. Shot match this clip. Okay. I think let's actually, can I reset that? In fact, let's go delete all versions of this. I think because I'm missing all the nodes. Okay, there we go. Let's and again, let's just do this one last time. Hopefully it'll work. There we go. So we need a node for this to actually work, and I deleted them all. So that was a mistake. But essentially, I guess what I'm trying to call out is if you have the studio version, you've got access to Magic Mask, which is amazing. And you can sort of see how quickly that happens. And I can sort of think about putting things behind myself. You know, you can sort of increase that. The other thing that's really epic is if I go to the timeline and go to AI tools and go create subtitles from audio, I don't know. It has an auto option. We could probably just use that, but I will say English and I will go double and I'll go create. And it's just going to create subtitles based on what it thinks I said. These aren't always 100% accurate. You do need to go in and double check them. But this is so much quicker than sort of manually typing stuff in yourself. And again, I can sort of go to the track and I might make this a little bit lower in the frame. It should be the Y coordinate, I believe. Oh, that's the size of the zoom, sorry. All right, we don't want that one. We want the actual position, which is the one above it. So there you go. I could move that down. I could change that. And again, all we need to do is just go through and just make sure those are correct and go from there. So again, that's another feature that's sort of in the paid version, not necessarily in the free version. But I hope that, you know, if you do, and again, the multicam functionality, which is the point of today's demo, is really, it is available in the free version. Business growth ready, right? And my mouse is being not very responsive. There we go. Another benefit of the studio version, which isn't always obvious in short clips, is it will use your GPU more efficiently for rendering. Yeah. And I guess the other thing too is, and I'm not even really sure where these features are. There we go. So we do actually have the ability, if you do find that you're working with very large footage and maybe your computer's a little bit older, we do have these things called proxies. And essentially we can choose between these. And a proxy is just like a smaller version which should play a little bit better. We can disable them. In fact, in this case, I've got Prefer Camera Originals just because my computer can handle it. But if you are finding that it's sort of lagging a bit, you could go to Prefer Proxies.
OBS Studio is free and open source.
And again, you probably want to think about what you're going to do with those captions and whether you're going to have them on or you know, physically visible, like burnt into the clip, or if you're going to upload an SRT file at the end. I'd probably want to bring this down a little bit. And again, you have sort of these options for things like drop shadow. We can put a background on there again and adjust the opacity of that. So I could make it solid, or I could have it slightly transparent. I can do all of the things. And again, let's just hide the inspector. I guess the other thing to mention, obviously I only have 2 video camera angles for this project, but we can have, I think, in the region of like, there are at least, so on the speed editor itself, I can have 9 different camera angles, but I think you can have more than that with the software itself. And again, I can't imagine working on a project with 9 different camera angles, but maybe if you're editing a music video and you've got, you know, wide shots and close-ups of everybody in the band, you could potentially have that going on there as well. So there are all those different options. And again, we can sort of make those changes. So again, this is pretty basic functionality, but I hope you can sort of see the power of it. I hope you think about how you might want to try this out. And again, even though I was kind of wanting to use this as a justification to go out and buy another $1,000 camera, I didn't do that. I just used my phone, which I already have. So even if you've just got 2 phones that you can set up on tripods and hit the magical button, that's definitely worth thinking about. So I hope that's been useful. I'm just wondering, is there anything else that maybe I can show you while we're here? I guess one thing that did trip me up during the week is that the presets, the way the presets are on DaVinci Resolve 21 is a little bit different. So this used to be just a row of icons. Now it's just a drop down. Otherwise, it's pretty standard. And again, if you're happy with your project and you decide you want to actually save it here, Business Growth Ready writes, up to 25 different camera angles. Those are justifications for the Pocket 5, 6, and 7 now. Yes, absolutely. Although at some point, I think you do need to think about the physical coverage. Like at some point, you're going to see other cameras from other cameras. Like you're going to see cameras in the shot, which is potentially going to be a problem. So just keep that in mind. But again, if I go and I decide I want to save this, I just want to say where I want to save it, and I might go, I'll probably create a new folder for this, and I'll say Multicam demo, and I will just go save. Although in this case, it's actually defaulted to QuickTime. I'd prefer an MP4. I'd probably go H.264. And this is the point at which we can decide, do we want our subtitles in the clip or not? So at the moment, they're not automatically exported. If I click export subtitle, we've got the option here as a separate file. And that'll give you like an SRT or a VTT file that you can upload to social media. And then users can sort of nominate whether they have that on or off. But the other options are as embedded captions, which means they're actually physically inside the video file, and depending on the software you're playing that video file back in, whether you can turn them on or off. Or finally, burn into video, which is what people will actually see when this happens. And one thing that is a little bit confusing to me at the moment, I seem to be seeing things in this clip that I wouldn't normally expect to see. And I think what I did learn during the week is if I click add to render queue, I've got it up here. I can hit the render all button just here. It should, in fact, at that point, that's where I see the video as it probably is intended to be. So let me just open this file location. And I will play this, although you won't actually hear the audio of this, but I do want to show you what it kind of looks like. So if we go, I just need to bring this, not that one. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. So I bring this over here. And I didn't take out that glitch transition, which I definitely would take it out in real life because I think that's not really relevant here. But essentially, that's our finished video project. And again, this was all of 7 seconds long. So in reality, you probably would be working with a longer project. But I mean, I say that, but these days in social media, you probably are creating shorter videos as well. So hopefully that's been of interest. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And what do you know, that button actually worked this week. It's a bit of a miracle. I am really curious to actually hear more about the kinds of video projects that you guys are exploring. I know Michael is doing sort of a video a day. I don't know if he intends to do that for the entire year, but sort of talks about a topic and has a quote, which is really interesting. And I think that's a really great way of exercising that talking to a camera muscle. I think that's really worthwhile. So definitely go check out Business Growth Ready as well. But I hope that's been useful. If you've got questions, I don't know that I'll be able to answer all of them, but I'll certainly give it a go. So thank you so much for being here today. I hope to be with you again very, very soon. But have a great day, have a great week, have a great weekend when you get there. And I'll talk to you again very, very soon.